All right, so before we go on, somebody could you remind us of what free village is? If you hear the word free village, what comes to mind? A workable definition? Come, ladies, easy, easy stuff that.
Sir,
Go ahead for me.
free villages were the villages set up by the former enslaved after they received their freedom.
All right, very good, yes. Villages, or you can use settlement after slavery ended. Very good by the former enslaved. All right, very good, very good. Thank you very much for that one. When we talk about peasantry, what are we talking about?
Sir, small businesses that were set up in order
Uh,
to.
Small business is part of it, but it is much larger than that.
Sir, just persons who owned small plots of land and they cultivated on those small plots of land to earn money and support, themselves
Good.
financially.
Yes. So two words to remember when describing it, it is a mode of production. Mode, M-O-D-E, of production. And you can explain that they had their small plot of lands and they would have used it to grow things on it and they sell from it. All right. And also peasants also did fishing. So it's not only peasantry is not only linked to the land, but it is also linked to the sea and the river. So you go to the river, you catch some fish, you go and sell it. It's a mode of production. All right, very good. Two free villages in Jamaica.
Sir, one in Sandy Bay and one in what's it called? Sligoville.
Sligoville, very good. Uh, what were some of the conditions of faced in the free villages? Problems they faced.
Sir, you had health problems where there was no public health system. You had a small number of doctors, and it was the place where the doctors were very far. So for example, there's only one doctor in all of Jamaica at that time. You had diseases that ravaged the free villages, for example, whooping cough. You had mosquito-borne disease such as malaria and smallpox. I think it was cholera.
We won't take them all, Canada.
Oh, sorry.
Sir, would malnutrition fall under healthcare? It would be separate and apart.
It would fall on, you can put it separately, poor diet.
Okay, sir.
Mhm. Most of the issues is really dealing with health issues, but you could link it under that also. Any other issue?
Sir, you had poor sanitation.
Mm-hmm. What about poor sanitation?
Sir, so one, you had poor drainage, and two, you had the use of pit latrines. And so when you use them, you'd have to cover it, and that would create an area for flies to come in, and all sorts of stuff would happen.
Yes, could contaminate foods, and the latrines were very close by the homes.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. What are some of the factors that led to the development of free villages?
Sir, oh,
Go ahead for me. Hemmings or Bartley? It's both of you, right?
oh, sir, actually, I can go.
Go ahead for me, Hemmings.
Oh, sir, I was saying the desire to move away from their from their plantations.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is true. So in the
Sir,
exam, you just go and write desire to move away. What were some of why they had a desire?
So they wanted to forget about like the things that they would have went through before they were granted independence. So when they gained independence, they basically wanted a fresh start.
Remember to use the word emancipation.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. You're correct. And you can explain some of the hills of the plantation, some of the wickedness that they would have gone through. Yes, Bartley?
So I was going to say the cost of land. So for example, I'm sorry, the cost of land. The cost of land played a large role in the factors which promoted the free villages. For example, in Jamaica and Grenada, the cost of land went from I think £3 to £10 per acre. And in
Mhm.
Barbados, the price of land increased from I think it was 65 or something to £300 per acre, but approximately 65.
Mm-hmm. All
Sir,
right, but what before that, how? One second, Austin. How is the price of land linked to the development of free village? You haven't answered the question.
Right. Okay. So previously, previously, the free person they weren't making enough money, and so with the small amounts of money, the planters would charge high. Oh God, the prices would be high, and so they wouldn't be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on the plantations because they charge a lot of money for rent, and so
Well, that answer part of the question, but thank you very much for trying. There's another link that is missing. Go ahead for me, Austin.
sir, I was saying is also provided land for them at a cheaper cost, of course. So they bought the land from the um what you call them again, planters?
Yes.
They bought land from the planters, sir, which was really expensive. So they bought it and they divided it up into smaller portions for families to like that they can buy it for like a cheaper cost. And due to that, the free villages were able to set up because of the help from the missionaries.
Missionaries. All right. Any other point?
Sir, there was also the fact that the planters no longer wanted their plantations because it wasn't making money because they were struggling with the sugar because of emancipation. Sorry. Because of
Yes.
emancipation, the sugar industry was struggling, so planters could no longer afford most of them to maintain their land, so they just divided it up into small pieces and sold it.
Very good. Yes. Yes. Any other one?
Sir, also the ex-slaves pooled their money together, I think. Yeah, to afford the land, and they just shared it.
There was
Very
an
good.
example. It was in Jamaica.
Probably.
Sorry, the example that you gave, what was the name of it?
I think it was in Trinidad or Trinidad.
The R name. That's all.
You have Jamaica that the man Lunan that would have bought saved his personal money, but the enslaved people would have put money together. I think it was in Trinidad, Ghana, in British Ghana, where Queenstown was one area of such. All right, ladies, thank you very much for that recap. Just to link the point for that Bartley was trying to develop was that the cost of land, they would have increased the cost of land. And so it was difficult for them to purchase land. All right, Bartley?
yes, sir.
And so because it was difficult, because land cost was so high, even in Jamaica, where you have land so cheap compared to Barbados, £10 was still expensive. And so, in addition to that, the planters are going to put on some other restrictions that the Squatting Act, the Trespass Act the vagrancy act, the eviction act, these laws. And so the ex-enslaved or the freed people, they need somewhere to live. And so they are going to pool their resources together. All right, so the cost of land is going to cause people to pool resources together or to rely on the missionaries, right? I think that is one of the major factor, the assistance given by the missionaries. And also the availability of land in some territories. Some territories like British Guiana, Dominica, Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica had a lot of idle land. And so they were able to use those lands to establish free villages. All right, ladies, now, what were some of the impact of free villages on the Caribbean? So one is free villages. Let us see if I look at labor separately. Good. Free villages, once you have free villages set up, you're going to have a church being built. Because most time it's the church that set up a free village. And so you need church. And every church have a little school. Check in Jamaica, every single church have a school.
Sir, my church have a brain builders school for little
Yes,
children.
for little children. So every church have a school attached to it. So you're going to have church, school, and if you have church and school, you're going to have different programs at evening classes, reading classes, summer camps for the children, or what they call vacation Bible school, employment, training. Church is going to have a lot of activity, choir, recreation, playing the guitar, the drum. So there's a lot of social services that are going to take place as a result of free villages being established. So that was one of the impact, the social services. Another impact is labor. So free villages going to impact the labor on the plantation. How it would impact the labor on the plantation, whether positive or negative, how would it? How free villages would impact labor? Go ahead for me.
There, I think it would impact it negatively because most of the slaves wouldn't necessarily depend on the planters for wage anymore. Because even though they don't have a lot in the free villages, they're mostly self-sufficient.
Very good, very good. So you are correct. So one, it's going to affect privileges, going to affect the plantation negatively. One, you're going to have the reduction in the number of full-time workers on the plantation. And for those workers that remain on the plantation, because people is leaving, you're going to have more bargaining power. You're going to tell them that if you want me to remain, you have to increase my wage and you have to pay me every Friday at 12 o'clock. Bargaining power. You start to bargain, you increase it because a lot of people leaving. So you want us to remain. So guess what? You have to increase the wage and you have to pay us on time. And because a lot of persons are leaving the plantation, it's a lot of plantation going to have reduced production. And a lot of the male artisans who used to work on the plantation, they are going to leave. And so the planters now are going to be in a serious problem and they are going to seek alternative employment or alternative labor from Asia and Europe. And so we know for sure that free villages would have negatively affected the plantation employment. Another impact of free villages on the Caribbean is that new occupations are going to emerge. right? What are some of the new occupations that we looked at earlier?
Sir, washerwoman.
Yes, that's one. What else? We looked at some occupation. What are those occupations?
House
Yes,
cleaner.
Teachers.
House clean. House. Oh my God. Oh yeah, midwife. Surgery and midwife.
you're going to have a midwives were always there, but what are some of the other new occupations?
Sir, could you say teaching because they had schools now?
Yeah, you could say teaching, yes. Early childhood teachers. But what else? You're going to have people set up their small shops. You're going to people
Sir,
go around
fishermen.
and peddlers that go around and sell their goods. People say walking around selling.
Farmers.
Yes, all of these different occupations. Now, a very important question that they ask in the exam is, why did some territories have few free villages? And we know that in territory, not that they didn't have any free village, but in countries like Jamaica, Trinidad, Ghana, they had a lot of free villages. But in places like Barbados, Antigua, and St. Kitts, they had few free villages. And one was land size. These territories were already overpopulated. So, for example, Barbados, their land size was 166 square miles, and the population was 83,000. So that was 501 person to every acre. In Antigua, 108 square miles, and their population was 29,000. That was 277 person to every acre. And therefore, what you have here is that the land size, and because the place was already overpopulated, uh, you didn't have a lot of privileges in these areas. And another factor was topography. Most of the lands in these territories, they are flat. And the land were already being used for sugar production. Most of the flatlands were already in use for sugar production. And so the lands were not available for sale. And the lands that are available are infertile. The idle lands are infertile. They can't really use those lands. And so land size is one issue. That why they had few free villages. Topography is another. And then there's the frequency of natural disaster that prevented people from venturing out to establish their own free villages. And the cost of land, we can't ignore also the cost of land. Land was very, very expensive in places like Barbados, because we see for sure that in Barbados, they would have increased the cost of land from £60 to £300. So it was very expensive and people could not buy. Even if you pull your money together, it was very, very difficult for them to purchase land. Another reason why they had few free villages was that the planters came in with a contract system. So you work for a year, you don't have to pay rent, right? And if you don't want, if you decide that you're going to leave the plantation, we're going to charge you because you're Idle Vagrancy Act. And if we see that you're settled somewhere that you're not supposed to settle, you're squatting, then we have the Squatting Act, we're going to imprison you. So the planters did quite a lot of these things to keep the ex-enslaved people on the plantation. All right, so we have 1 point, 2, 3, 4, 5 points to discuss in the exam right here. Why they had few free villages. Now, we have 30 minutes now to finish peasantry. Let us see how quick we can go through this. Now, as I said before, that peasantry was not only linked to farming, but it also involved things like fishing, forestry. So people who made coals, right? You cut the trees and you burn it and you sell coal for fuel. That was also part of peasantry. That was a new occupation that came about where people go around and sell coal. When I was growing up, they used to have a few houses from where I live. Somebody used to sell coal. So yeah, we had gas stove, but when you're doing things like
Roast breadfruit.
roast breadfruit and so
Although you can do it on the stove and make it
you can
pudding.
do it on the stove, but we never used to do it on the stove then.
I make pudding, sir.
And to make what they put in the all different type of pudding you do it, but nothing like hella top and hella bottom, hallelujah in the middle.
Not to mention dead yard.
Yes, you can imagine. So coal was very important. Even if you go to country now, people still use coal. And I had a neighbor who lived like 2 blocks away from me. She had her coal stove. She used to buy gas maybe once a year because she still used coal. She still used coal to do her cooking. And so the forestry where you cut down things, and that was a form of occupation that they had. Trading, you go and buy goods from the wholesaler and you set up your shops. You make little craft, you make shoes, the dressmakers, the tailors. You have the craft making, somewhere involving animals. You're rearing animals. So these were some of the economic activities of the peasants. That's why we say peasantry is a mode of production. So you're doing it for your personal use, subsistence. You're using it for your personal use or individual use, but the excess you're going to sell. And that is, you have that farming, fishing, forestry, trading, shopping, animal rearing. Those were some of the economic activities of the peasants. All right, ladies. And that's one of the reasons why we can't say that peasantry is just small business, because the person who go around and they go on the donkey and said yam yam, pound of yam, two shillings. 2 shillings for a pound of yam, or you go around and you walk on your foot in the community and say, brew me. They are not farming, they are into craft. You have your basket. Lady, why are you going to the market with that sack? Come on, I have a nice basket that I weave together. I'm selling basket. Come put your goods in the basket. People selling basket, you're hot, you're hot. Why are you in the sun? Come on. See, look how hot here. You have the straw hats that they're going to sell. And the straw slippers. Why are you going to walk barefoot to go on the road? Come on, here's a little slippers, straw slippers that we make. And so they are involved in a lot of different activities. Now, one of the things of the syllabus is that he usually asks us about the contributions of the peasants, right? And one of the first contributions, so we divide contributions into 3: economic, social, political. Economic, social, political. So now we're going to look at the economic contributions of the peasants to the Caribbean. Somebody read the first point for me, please. Come, ladies, time is against us.
Sir, pattern of land ownership changed. Hundreds of small landowners. From 1830 to 2014, there were small landowners, and from 1840. Oh wait, I said that wrong. In 1830, there were 2,014 small landowners, and in 1840, there were 7,848 small landowners.
Very good. Thank you very much. So one, we have the pattern of land ownership change, meaning that before this, they had a lot of large estates, and now you're going to have a lot of small landowners because the peasants, the missionaries purchase the land and then they subdivide it and sell them to the freed people. So you have an increase, and this figure is from Jamaica. So in 10 years in Jamaica, it increased from 2014 small landowners to 7,848. Very good. Next point.
Peasantry strengthened the internal marketing system because peasants produce goods such as ground provisions. In Jamaica, the value of ground provision increased from 854,000 euros in
Pounds.
pounds in 1860 to 2.6 million pounds in 1890. This reduced Jamaica's dependence on food from Jamaica.
Right? That should not be from Jamaica, from
Oh, because I was surprised,
North America.
Wait.
Yes. Thank you for that one. So one, we know that, you see the market system that we have today, where we have a lot of different markets all over the country. The peasants developed the market system. And so they established markets. And so they are going to the markets and they are selling ground provision. And so Jamaica is going to be less, and other Caribbean countries going to be less dependent on food from overseas, more so North America. And if you can see the value of the food here, 854,000 pounds, that was the value of ground provision that they are producing. And by 1890, they increased that to 2.6 million pounds. So you see that they are producing a lot of ground provision, and they are selling those ground provision, and they are making money from that. Another one is that they are going to increase export because they are doing all of these fruits and vegetables and all of these different stuff. They are going to export it abroad. And so the peasants would have contributed 11% to export in 1850, and by 1890, that would have increased to 23%. So they are making money because they are selling goods abroad. Now, another economic contribution of the peasant was that they are going to form things like cooperative societies. Why? Because the banks like Barclays Bank, which is now NCB, and Scotia Bank, they told the peasants that they could not use the banks. So the peasants had to start up their own banking system. You know what they call today credit unions?
Yes, sir.
It's the peasants that started the credit unions. Because the banks of the day, the Scotia and the Barclays Bank, which is now NCB, said they could not use their bank. They don't want the peasant money in the bank.
Uh-oh.
And so they are going to set up their own credit unions. So somebody could go ahead for me.
Everybody around the Scotia Bank and NCB?
No. But back then they couldn't do it. If you're a black, you could not use the bank. You could not even go to the step. You couldn't work in those banks. But a lot of that has changed. Somebody read this point for me. This is taken from the Jamaica Department of Cooperative and Friendly Societies website. Go ahead for me.
Sir, read it.
Yes, Austin.
The cooperatives and friendly societies, the informal cooperative efforts which characterized the period 1840 to 1938 had some modicum, that's a word, modicum. Roads, schools, and churches were constructed. Farmers benefited from group action on their agricultural pursuits, and most importantly, a keen sense of fraternity developed, which argued well for future efforts. This was the foundation on which the more formal cooperative development of the period 1938 to the present time was built, and which saw the formation of cooperative organizations and the enactment of cooperative legislation.
Very good. Examples of some cooperative that the peasants started. So they started the collective production cooperative, the individual farming, the Jamaica Agricultural Society, the People's Cooperative, local Bank of Jamaica. So these are some examples. So if you're going in the exam, you say one example of the one economic contribution is the cooperative societies, and you tell the reason why they had to form it, then you need to give some of these examples. Just you can say the Jamaica Agricultural Society, easy to remember, right? Is one of such. Now I want to go to, I'm not gonna go to this. All right, so another one. So another economic contribution is that you're going to have new crops emerging. So they are going to diversify the economy. So Jamaica, instead of selling only sugar alone, they're doing ginger, banana, coconut, St. Vincent, arrowroot. British Guyana start to produce rice, Dominica, limes, oranges, coconut, grenada, nutmeg, cinnamon, pimento, ginger. So new crops are emerging at this point, right? So those are some of the economic contributions. Now let us look at some of the social contributions. So point one, you're going to the exam and they ask you to talk about to discuss the social contributions of the peasants. One of the first contributions is that peasants led to the development of the nonconformist churches. Point one. So the role of the peasants in churches. So you could look at, because the Baptist church, they are building, they are purchasing communities or land for the peasants, to establish free villages. And so that is going to lead to the development of peasantry. What is going to happen is that people are going to go to the church. You go to church that help you. Most people go to church because, the church is helping them. You don't just go to church so because you want to praise Jesus. You go to church because you get help. Yes. So that is one reason. So people, the membership in the churches, the non-conformist churches, is going to increase because, like the Catholic and the Anglican church, those churches, they reject the Black people from visiting those churches. And it is because of that rejection why those churches in Jamaica today, the membership in those churches are small. A lot of people don't go to Catholic and Anglican church because they have a history of rejecting persons. Well, rejecting, or even if you have an Anglican church, you have an Anglican church for the blacks and you have an Anglican church for the whites.
Sir, no, in Jamaica right now?
No, right now in Jamaica, you find not a lot of people go to the Anglican and the Catholic church.
Oh,
The membership is small.
Everybody going Seventh-day Adventist and Prophecy and Open Bible.
Baptist and Church of God, the non-conformist churches, they have a lot of membership.
sir, always thought just because them just did boring, just big and boring.
No man, it's deeper than the church being boring.
I think that's one of the reasons too, as honestly.
And then the next thing is that you're going to have a lot new syncretic forms of religion emerging, like revivalism going to form, and Shota Baptist in the Eastern Caribbean and Shango. You're going to have church leaders, so now church people, peasants start to go to church. The church is in their community. People going to turn church leaders, like Paul Bogley was leader of a Baptist church. You're going to have harvest at church. So they are contributing to the development of the church, the peasants. So that is one social contribution. Another is that the church is going to have social programs that the peasants are going to contribute to. So the church is going to have things like harvest. So harvest is when you bring your fruits and your vegetables to church, then put it out in the church and they pray over it. And they said, you sing the song, all good things around us are sent from heaven above. Oh, thank the Lord. And you sing your two little hymns and you clap and you beat your drum. But at the end of the harvest, the minister and the church is going to donate those fruits and vegetables to the poorer people in the society. Any of your church still have harvest?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, like
Yes,
curry.
sir.
Yes, so harvest is part of it, where you
Sir, but you don't have to bring fruits and vegetables.
you don't bring fruits and vegetables again.
Yes, you do, sir, but you can bring anything like anything.
Like bread and stuff like that.
Okay.
Sir, because
And
I
then,
don't bring fruits and vegetables. I always bring like juice and them kind of stuff there.
also the harvest has evolved. Because
Some
back
people
in
bring animals, sir, but just not me.
yeah, man, you bring that and then the church. Right now, what I know some church is that people bring the fruits, the vegetable, and the stuff, and they sell it to the same church members at the
Yes.
harvest. And then when they sell it, they put that money in a fund and then they distribute to the poor. Are some churches using the harvest now to take the money for themselves?
Sir?
Hmm? The purpose of the harvest was to help the poor in the communities.
Sir, but
That's
them selling it, them should have give it for free. Them selling it and some of the prices them outrageous.
No, sir. Well, at my church, they give it away to people.
Well, my
They
church
give-
is hell them sell it. Well, old
That's a money-making business. That's not a
old
church.
church. Old church. Maybe the money that they make them give it to some, I don't know. But
So then why not
my,
just give away the food?
my original, I don't know if them still do it in my original church. No, they don't do harvest. I don't think they do it. I never hear about it at my church now, so.
All right. Good points, ladies. Another point is that the peasants going to preserve African culture. So they're going to preserve the language. They're going to have celebrations such as Wake and Nine Night. When the baby born, you put a little red string on the baby's forehead or put some bead around the baby's hand, the drunker beings. dance and all of these different stuff, African religion. So that's one of the contributions of the peasants. Also, improve diets. So while the peasant communities are in problem when it comes to poor nutrition, the peasants are now going to go into a lot of fruits and vegetables and animal rearing, and so they are going to increase. So instead of you buy cow milk, you start to use goat milk instead of the cow milk. Infrastructure development. The peasants going to build houses and they're going to pave roads and they're going to build schools and church and community centers. They are modernizing the communities. And also, as a peasant, you're going to have social mobility because now you own your piece of land, and with land, you increase the standard of living. Social mobility, you move from one level to the next. So those are some of the social contributions. Next, political contributions. Somebody read this point for me, point one on the political. Come, ladies, quickly.
Enfranchisement, voting rights. Peasants secure enfranchisement of workers. Some peasants had the right to vote due to their size of plot and the value of their lands. For example, 5,000 freeholders in Jamaica put forward black candidates for elections in 1860. Blacks also were elected to the local assembly.
Good. So in 1860, 50,000, that's 50,000.
Oh, okay.
50,000 freeholders, what they call peasants, who owned land, they were able to vote because back then, the only way you could vote is if you owned land. And so they were able to have black candidates and they were able to be elected. Revenue. And another one is that the government is going to get a lot of revenue. So people own land, you have to pay land tax. You're sending goods abroad, you have to pay export tax, duties. You're bringing in goods into the country, you have to pay import duties. You're selling those little, your yam, your banana, all of these different stuff, you have to pay sales tax. So the colonial government is going to make money from this. Taxes, revenue for them. And then another political effect is that they're going to fear, there's going to be a fear of a black emerging political superiority. Because if everybody is owning, most people owning land, well, not most, but a few people owning land at this point, and in one election in Jamaica, 1860, 50,000 freeholders were put forward as candidates. That's outnumbering the whites. And they were also being elected. So what they're going to do now is that they're going to change the law to say they're going to increase the property size which qualify you to vote. And they're going to add another thing, a literacy test. So you could not vote without a literacy test. And so this disenfranchised, that it took away blacks' voting rights and right to be elected. So from 1860s until 1944, we had blacks were not really allowed to vote. All right? Another one is that you're going to change how the colonies are administered. So the colonies had an old representative government where people are elected or people vote based on the amount of property that they own. Now they're going to increase the size to stop blacks from voting or the peasants from voting. or they're going to increase the literacy rate. Well, not increase the literacy, put an illiteracy test, because even though you own land, don't mean you can read. You could own the entire estate, but if you can't read, you cannot vote. And so they are going to implement a system of government that is called crown colony. So nobody is now going to vote who should run the colony, but the governor is going to be sent directly from England, and he will select who should run the colony, no legislature. Now, the peasants, ladies, are going to face some problems. One problem, several land problems they're going to face. One, please note the problems, note the solution. Price of land increase. They're going to refuse to sell them small plots of land. In places like Trinidad, they made a rule that if you are not buying 130 hectares of land, you should not pay. You cannot purchase land. Survey costs. You can't get the title of your land because the survey cost is expensive and the attorney fees are expensive. How are they going to resolve this? By pooling their resources together to purchase land, the peasants, and then they are going to subdivide it, and the missionaries are going to help. Those are some of the ways they are going to implement to solve some of these problems that they are going to face, or they face. Another problem is that transportation was an issue for the peasants. Toll tax, they have to pay toll tax, donkey tax, trespass tax. So you own a donkey, you have to pay a fee to own the donkey, right? And the colonial government is going to refuse to repair the roads or construct roads. So what you're going to do now is that, one, people are going to purchase donkeys, even though you have to pay the fee, but the donkey is cheaper than paying the fee for the horse. And we are going to create a lot of footpaths, what we call shortcuts. Well, you have footpath, not all footpaths are shortcuts. You know those little dirt roads that you walk on every day and you just, right? So yeah, so one of the solutions is that they're going to do that. Another one is that you're going to pray their last meal. You can't stop that. People going to come and steal your stuff. They steal your goat, they steal your fruits. You can't stop that. There's no solution really to that. And then you're going to have a lot of custom duties, and they're going to increase the cost of land. So what people are going to do to solve this is that they're going to start up the partner system, what they call SUSO. Some people still throw the little partner. You put your money together, and then at the end of every week, somebody gets what they call a draw. That was one way to solve the problem. You eat more local food. They join the friendly societies. Problems when it comes to farming. They're going to have drainage issue, irrigation issue. The cost of fertilizer are going to be expensive. They're going to borrow money from the cooperative societies, and they are going to water harvest. So when it rains, you set the bucket or the pans around certain parts of the place to harvest the water. You're going to build wells. All right. Another problem was bank restriction. The bank stopped them from, well, the banks said that they couldn't use it. The peasants could not use it. So they are going to establish friendly societies such as credit unions and all of these different stuff. And natural disaster are going to be a problem. But Woodville Marshall, a historian, notes that because they established their own banks, when the peasants had natural disasters such as a hurricane or earthquake, the banks gave them loans to rebuild. All right, ladies? Sorry for rushing, but time is against us. We just have 2 weeks to go, and we have to finish this. After next week, then the following week is you're going off on study break.
John Star. Sarah, and what else we have left to do?
So we have a few more. We're going to immigration next week. And then after immigration, we're going to look at the coming of the immigrants and their contributions. And then after we look at that, then we're going to look at Crown Colony government. And then we're through. Go ahead, Farmer Barkley. 2 more major topics.
Sir, we can like meet on a day or something and go and see how much we can cover, even if it's outside of school.
We did plan to do that, but Sarah no mash up the plan, man. I'm gonna do something else. Sarah mash up the plan.
Or like for next class, sir, we can rush and go through everything in 1 session or 2 and extend it so we can finish quicker or something.
Remember, that's at school.
Oh yeah.
Next week we'll go back to school.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So we can just hurry up and finish it so we have time to revise on them thing there.
I don't think no revision going to be here.
This is crazy. Oh my God.
Yes, ladies, but don't be depressed. This is easy stuff. So listen what I want you to do now. It's like I just finished this. I'm going to place it in the Google Classroom. So you take your time. So if you have a little lunch break, you go under the tree for those who have tree, read through the PowerPoint. It's not taking you 15 minutes. Read through the PowerPoint and cement the information.
Sure.
Sir?
Go ahead for me.
I was looking through the thingies for metropolitan movement, sir, and you didn't post the amelioration PowerPoint. Everything else is there except the amelioration proposals.
I have something on the amelioration.
Sir, it's only the recording, not the PowerPoint itself.
All right, I'm going to post. All right, I will look at it.
Okay, sir, thank you.
No problem.
Wait,
All
sir.
right.
You have a class right now, sir?
Yes, I have a class.
Oh, never mind.
All right, no problem. All right, ladies, enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you on Monday, face to face.
Okay, sir.